right, everyone. We've got the board up. We'll just start. The first item today is the reprioritization of the top development items for the coalition. So I'm going to switch over and share the voting that was done by the chains. And you can see on the screen now, there's a number that were selected. The points were distributed. There were 16 points per the 16 items, but this shows the weighting. And so if we look through this, you can see 19 points for provable state domains, 19 points for P2P code rewrite. We got RAM limitation fixes, 9 for P2P code rewrite. And we got 13 for smart contract tooling evolution and 4 for reference documents. Now, one question that I do have for the general group is we really haven't decided how many RFPs we would like to release this round, because we were really focused on getting the priorities. So is it, we just want 1? Do we want to do 3? What are the thoughts on that?
My thoughts would be that if we look at the items right now, there are, I guess, 5 of them that have been assigned points. 4 of them which are higher in point, and of those, there's peer-to-peer code rewrite, which we've already done an RFP. So we could either do 3 RFPs, which would be the smart contract tooling evolution, the RAM limitation fixes, provable state domains, or we could add a 4th one, which would also be adding reference docs. But either way, I only see 3 or 4 RFPs being written.
I guess for clarity on the P2P is that would be a re-release of the RFP. We have it written. With
any learnings. Yeah, so either we want to remove business or technical requirements or add some based on over the last couple of weeks, there's been some back and forth. Yes. So either re-releasing as is and or making slight modifications based on the learnings of the first release.
Just also quick question with the smart contract tooling evolution. Since you mentioned that the ENF was already working on some aspects of it, are you looking for a RFP that encompasses the portions that you're not working on, or are you looking?
We currently are starting to work on this. But if it's not us, then somebody else. We believe it's important. We have a general idea of what we would be doing. If this went out as RFP, we'd bid just like everybody else with our proposed solution to this. This was still highlighted in the Core Plus blue papers, just that there's somebody in the team that is particularly good at this and wants to work on this. And so we would be assigning resources to it. We think it's valuable for everybody if it made, and it seems like it's making the top priorities, signing an RFP, and we would bid, and we would have to compete just like everybody else. Thank you. And Ted, that's the repo I was looking for earlier.
Does anybody have other thoughts on how many RFPs we want to put out this cycle?
For reference docs, I have a question, either, I guess, because UX TELOS, Guillaume or Jesse, can you explain a little bit the reference docs?
Yeah, speaking for ourselves, essentially, like there's a, I guess, like so far, people are still using the block 1 documentation as the, I guess, like main point of reference, and it's starting to deviate from the code base quite a bit. So there's a few things that are mentioned there that are no longer applicable. And I guess with the new software, the LEAP 3.1 and 3.2, we're kind of moving away from it's basically a disparity between the code base and the quote quote official documentation that's no longer official. So I think sooner or later we have to basically like take over that task and basically bring it up to speed as much as possible.
Yeah, from my perspective, it was pretty much the documentation kind of just like Noam said, everybody still uses a URL that is ran by Block One and is becoming stale. So putting effort into documentation solution for the core Antelope protocol and all the software that comes with it. Whether I know we have had conversations around what that really looks like, but whatever it ends up being, whether it's docs.antelope.io or creating a framework for each individual chain to run their own, whichever direction we all end up going, that would be the prioritizing that. And ensuring, like Block One turns that thing off tomorrow, we're kind of all going to panic, right?
Well, Ted just shared docs.esnetworks.com. I was not aware of that. How complete is that documentation, you think?
It's pretty complete. What we're still planning on doing, and we've just been resource constrained, is pushing a version out to docs.antelope.io. Gotcha. And then we're going to start diverging so that they're not going to look almost similar. But at that point, our documentation team is not going to work on docs.antelope.io. There will be the stuff that is living inside the Leap repo. Obviously, whenever we change any documentation there, it'll be changed, but the generator has to run and push it out to docs.antelope.io. And again, until we figure out some way to pay for that, et cetera, or have some people do that, our engineers will update the document part that lives inside the Leap repo, but they won't necessarily run the generator and push it out there. We will open source the generator and make that available to Antelope as well. But this is where we'll have to decide how funding works, who does it. But we'll give the part pieces and all that, and we're going to make an initial push to it so it exists and snap the chalk line, and then say it's up to the coalition then to figure out how to fund and pay for any of that moving forward.
Yeah, in light of that, I was not aware, but in light of that, then I removed the 2 points for UX. I think my main concern was make sure that the doc was not only on the Block One's website. So now that it's that we have a separate version, then it's not as big of a deal for us.
I think I guess I'm going to leave too. I mean, probably not going to make a difference, but it sounds like there does need to be some effort and funding put into the either maintenance of docs.antelope.io. I mean, that would be my instinct, is to support the needs required so that docs.antelope.io gets the generator ran regularly and, wire up whatever CI/CD pipeline stuff needs to be done. So that's not gonna fall by the wayside.
Right. We're putting a CI/CD pipeline on the one that you guys can see there at docs.eosnetwork.com, and possibly if it's relatively straightforward, we can have that also sit for Antelope. Today we haven't even put the hardware out there for Antelope yet and everything, and it's just a matter of Nathan's team allocating cycles. They have a major launch that they're doing towards the end of October, so it's just not been a priority yet, but they will get that. I don't know if they'll also hand over the CI/CD, and that way when the developers update the headers and stuff, or even the headers in C++ code, or the stuff that's in the docs subdirectory of Leap, if the CI/CD pipelines there, it'll automatically go out.
Yeah, I think that you guys shouldn't have to bear all the effort of that, and I know you've done most of it already, so whatever we would have to do in the coalition just to have it keep up, I would support covering that via the coalition so that we have
a separate Jesse, you and I have access to a separate coalition AWS account. And so we'll probably put those hosts in there. Right now, we're not billing it back. It's de minimis. We have a DNS setup in there that you helped with. So once it gets to be of reasonable cost, we'll probably bill it back into the coalition maybe once a quarter, once every 6 months, something like that. And because it's not going to be that expensive for, basically one or maybe two hosts and a load balancer, just doing sure that it's, got higher reliability.
This is just a static front end, right? I don't even know. It looks like Docusaurus and
Yeah. I mean, other than the generator, it's just static HTML once it's done, just a web server.
Yeah, we use Docusaurus and we host it in Cloudflare, so that's free. I'm just saying we could really optimize if there's any large expense, but
got it.
For a couple of hosts, it doesn't matter.
It's small enough, other than the generator, that it's in the free tier for the first year in AWS.
Okay. Yeah, that's. I'll leave the points there just because I don't want to have you guys at EOS not feel justified or motivated to wire up the docs.antelope.io and keep it just up to speed with what's released in the Antelope GitHub. So
I think we do have another agenda item though for the documentations, and on our end, we're also willing to contribute human resources towards that goal. I just don't know if it should be an RFP. Feels to me like
I don't think it should be an RFP. I just don't want it to be like us making the ENF foot all the bills and or them not wanting to do that because nobody's compensating them. But if this means it's an RFP, then it
should be an RFP. I mean, if Guillaume, if you had some people that were willing to do a little bit of work on it, it would be great, right? Because then you guys could just donate that time into your fees for the coalition and just maintain it, because there's just going to be a CI/CD pipeline that runs a generator every time there's a push to either the docs subdirectory or anytime a header changes, you got to rescrape it, because that means that where we're you get it.
Same from our side, Ted. I mean, if you guys need help, we've got dedicated people to manage and maintain our developers portal. So
I mean,
we're paying them already. So if there are some tasks that they can help with, that's also possible.
That'd be great.
Maybe reach out to us and we can have like a working group for that.
Excellent.
I'd offer ours too, but you guys beat me to it. This probably does fall into the same thing we discussed on our previous call of getting more of a coalition chat or whatever it is, but just bringing more of the individual coalition chains engineers into the fold so that they can feel empowered and comfortable with contributing to the Antelope protocol stuff. This might fall right into that. That's the CI/CD pipeline for Antelope GitHub repos that produces Antelope documentation. It should probably just be another item on the maintenance list.
Yes.
So where we can try to cover it in-house instead of paying third parties to do stuff.
Yes.
Right. We do have an item that's for the Development Antelope work group. We've actually put the group together, but this has been open because we need somebody to lead it and drive this forward.
Well, I mean, we kind of have that. What we owe, meaning we, the ENF, owe a deliverable that Nathan is just a little bit resource constrained to do. Right. And then from there, it'll be more this discussion you hear Guillaume and Jesse and Lucas talking about of, okay, how do we maintain it going forward? But we haven't delivered the baseline yet of here it is, and look, it works. So how do you, that's the next step is then, okay, how do we, beyond the CI/CD pipeline, there might be a desire of like, hey, we'd like to make this look better. Oh, and it won't be designed, by the way. It'll be kind of just there. And so someone with a design eye will say, oh my God, put some chrome around that looks like the rest of the Antelope site. And so someone, one of the coalition members might say, we'll step up to that, do that design work and add that in. And then the next person will say, gee, we should maybe change some of these references here or there. And that'll be, kind of the process that would have to happen. And, Nathan will probably would be the person from our team that makes sure like, hey, like we don't want to break references that, go the wrong direction or something like that. So that it'll take some thinking because, the way we're using some of the base stuff and then we're putting conversions and translators on top of those to make customized pieces so that we don't break the core. Like one of the questions that came to me was, hey, can we just move, the docs directory out from under Leap? And I'm like, no, because it has to stay in the coalition. They were going to just bring it over to ENF. I'm like, then what would the coalition use? So, I told them, well, look, as long as you leave stuff so it'll work for the coalition, if you want to put translators and filters on it for post-processing, that's great. But so that's where they'll need to be a little bit of working together so that everything has to generate originally out of the Antelope repos.
Right. Is there anything else on the documentation we want to cover? Because we can just close this item off for discussion since we sort of pivoted to it. All right, excellent. So given that, I'll repost the question. How many of these do we want to put up as candidates given the voting for this next round?
I would say we just remove the reference docs as an RFP, so that would only be 3. Be the smart contract tooling evolution kit, re-putting out the peer-to-peer, but that's not a rewrite, RAM limitation fixes, and provable state domains.
Does everybody else agree with that?
I agree with that.
Agreed. Yep.
All right, drop this in. Got some notes on this. And the last one, provable state domains. So send out for so I'll make the note, resend. All right, any final comments on this, or are we essentially ready to close this one down?
Just that the P2P resend as is, if that's the idea, but if there was any lessons learned from the last one, then don't resend as is.
I have some feedback. So the last one was coming in so expensive and the duration was rather long. So what we've been working is to cut it in half. So it used to have a network discovery portion and a swarm download portion. And so what we've said is, why don't we do the network discovery portion first? It's pretty brittle code, and a lot of the OGs inside ENF, the developers are kind of saying that stuff needs to be fixed, whether they just take it on themselves or, if we do an RFP. So that's what the new RFP that's coming out is. That should cause the bill to be at least cut in half. We had a previous bid, which we all looked at and said was too high. But in addition, there's now a Chinese university that is also willing to bid. And obviously, while their experience with the project is a lot less, the pricing will be better. And I've let the other bidder know that there will now be a competitive bid coming in. And then later, once the network discovery portion is done, we can then readdress whether we want to have a separate RFP for the swarm download, which is more like a BitTorrent for, starting out.
Okay. So one of the actions I'm hearing on that Ted, is for me to make sure that the P2P RFP removes the requirements for the swarm download so that the Chinese company is bidding on the same thing that OCI is bidding on. Is that
right?
Accurate? Okay.
And then we also have to put in the requirements for the detailed hours, the detailed rates, if they have a padding factor, et cetera, which, really was, in my opinion, one of the reasons the OCI bid was rejected. It was just too expensive. And the duration was a bit long as well. They possibly could have used 3 engineers instead of 2, but I think that if we can get that change in with, requiring the transparency of how the bid was arrived, how the numbers were created, along with it just being the discovery portion. So we are working to get that text reworked so that it is just the discovery portion of the new RFP, along with that, the new requirement of hours, rates, et cetera.
All right, excellent. And just like that, we got four new things to talk about next week. And I will keep everybody apprised like we did last time as these RFPs are rolling through the process. One thing that we can either talk about this now but I will need a subject matter expert to work with like we did last time for each of these, so that we can start developing the requirements at a lower level of detail. So for smart contract tooling evolution.
That'll be Bucky.
Okay.
Multiple state domains will be REG. RAM limitation fixes could be REG again, unless someone here on the coalition wants that one. P2P resend, you can make it me or Steven or Kevin Hefner. I mean, we're basically done with it. We can get it to you, Jeff.
All right. I'll put Steven on that because I know he's
on top of it.
All right. Is everybody else comfortable with that? Or other people want to be involved with reviewing?
Yeah, anyone want to be involved in the RAM limitation fixes? I think there was, I remember that being a hot button that got talked about early on when we're still early in the coalition. And it seemed like even UX and Wax had a very keen interest in that.
I would like to be added to this, please.
Thank you.
And you can add me to provable state domains. That's also something that's quite of interest to me.
Excellent.
I miss
GUILAUME.
And for the RAM limitation fixes, it would be also great to get Stanislav involved from EOS Amsterdam.
Yep.
That's
just Stan is all you need to put.
Yeah, Stan. We've been talking about this forever now.
CC 32D9 or something.
Yep.
Who else?
Yep. I was like, that doesn't look right to me, and it doesn't look right. Thank you. So if you have a really easy name like Jeff, it's boring, right?
Just one F or 2 Fs.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. All right. The other thing I want to skip down to this one because it's just a status, the Scalability Blue paper. Zach confirmed this has been translated. It is published. So this one is officially done. Are there any questions on this? Excellent. Good. All right. RFP for secure smart contract library. Let's see. So I know this is in progress. The vendors have selected EOS Nation as the master vendor. And then the POC is Denis. And then we did go over the items this week. They gave us a great overview of the breakdown. I published that into the coalition channel. So at this point, we have a fairly thorough breakdown where it's by hours, by role. And then also they gave us the hourly rate for the roles themselves. So I don't think Douglas warned us that he would be traveling, so he was not able to join the Monday meeting. Ted, was there anything else that, other than posting that detail to the coalition channel, which I did, that you think we need to bring up? Or is really the next discussion, is there any final questions with this before we move forward?
I don't have any. Maybe Douglas does. Douglas is not on the call. Right, it's Douglas and I, right?
Yep.
No, I'm good. Thank you, Jeff. I'm going to need to jump as well. I've got a 2:30. Sorry.
All right, so I'll put the last step is Douglas to provide feedback. Again, I know he was traveling. And if he comes back with that, hopefully we can put this up for a vote with whatever final negotiated amounts they have. Any final questions on that? All right. IBC.
So for that part, I apologize. I didn't. I do have a homework on that, providing a list of various questions to be answered by everyone to kind of come up with the final, I guess, like game plan for that part. I did. I started on this, but I didn't finish it. So let's just put that up for next week, if you don't mind.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on that?
On the governance, no.
Okay. All right. Developer onboarding and development workshops. Ted did drop. One thing I do know, OCI is working on scheduling a meeting with Ted next week. I don't know if that meeting's been scheduled yet or not, but I know that that's where they are in the their process.
There's also one being scheduled for us as well as Origin, so probably similar topics. So I'll keep you guys appraised as well. And we also discussed, I had a chat earlier this week with the ENF engineers, and we will have at some point, I'm not exactly sure when, but probably over the next few weeks, we will have a call for, I don't know, maybe an hour or two, where we will go over some of the, I guess, like core development concepts and code base and code structure that we will essentially record and make available to everyone. We might also open it to a few other people, but by invite only, and just like they need to kind of be quite familiar already with the code base. Like we don't want this to be a 101 class. It's going to be more like 303 or something.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent.
Yeah, just because we want to make sure that this is very productive. We don't want to waste our time. They're quite busy already.
All right. Let's want to give a quick update on IF and IBC.
Yep. Okay. So we're still waiting on the final review by ENF for the IBC smart contracts. So hopefully this week. It's been a few weeks that we've been like they've been thinking that they would be able to provide that, but they haven't yet. So I'm not sure exactly when that's going to happen, but I think at this point it's safe to say that we won't be live by the end of the month as we planned, because that review is basically a prerequisite. We do have the audit scheduled pretty shortly. I think originally they were saying the team was saying end of month or early next month, so that should be happening very shortly as well. I'll follow up with them this week and see what their timeline is. But I'm not too much in a rush, because essentially, like the way we were basically looking at this was ENF review would come first, and then we would have the audit by the external auditor. So if we don't have the internal review, then I would rather delay that external audit a bit more. We are still progressing on the milestones there. We have basically the I guess like the proof server pretty much ready to start what I would call the closed beta. So we will be essentially discussing with a few teams that already showed interest in helping testing it out. So we will start deploying. We actually started deploying it on the main nets for now, and we will basically like be onboarding some of these other teams to test it, give their feedback, try to break it, find issues with it. So that's our milestone, is scheduled for November 22nd, I believe. So we're ahead of schedule on that one, in my opinion. So we'll see how that goes, but so far so good. Then for IBC, yeah, like that's pretty much it. We're waiting for the review from ENF, and like after that point, once we release this the proof server, then we're transitioning everything pretty much to instant finality, which we already started as well. Like we're already working on the instant finality stuff in the meanwhile. So for the instant finality stuff, essentially we do have a milestone coming up next week, which is the mathematical proofs. So we did have a chat with the ENF engineers earlier this week. So that's pretty much covered. We should be able to deliver this at the date that we were supposed to, but we do have the same kind of issue where this is subject to review and approval by the ENF engineers, and they already have quite a big backlog, so it might not be approved or reviewed. My estimate would be it will take probably another 3 weeks to a month minimum before they get to that, because they already have a few other things to review on our end, plus they have their own work as well. So yeah, I mean, we're on our end, we're good, but we need that to close the milestone. We did do essentially the integration of the BLS signatures. We're kind of taking a step back to generalize the interface a little bit more. So originally what we did is we built an interface that was essentially appropriate for what we want to do with instant finality, but there's an opportunity to do a little bit like the ENF did for Trust EVM, which is to essentially add new host functions that are a little bit lower level, that essentially like open the door for more advanced functionality later on. So after discussing with Eric and on the topic, we decided to also throw that in. So essentially like we're broadening the scope a little bit, but we were ahead of schedule, so it doesn't really impact much. And it will allow us for more interesting constructs down the road, things like ZK snarks and other zero knowledge proof schemes that will be now made possible with this. So that's going very well. We are also in the process of essentially finalizing some decisions with regards to the consensus upgrade, like the consensus model upgrade. So we call it instant finality between us, but the way things are shaping up, it will be a variant of hot stuff, which is the consensus algorithm that was I think planned for the Libra blockchain, and that's pretty much cutting edge. That's pretty much like the most interesting consensus model that exists right now. So it will definitely, like, we will do this instant finality, but we will also have other benefits deriving from that. So at some point we'll write them down and we'll discuss them with everyone. But yeah, it's quite exciting stuff. So so this is progressing very well. It is challenging. This is not easy stuff, but we're doing very good so far. So quite excited. Probably in a few weeks we'll be able to discuss it a bit more, and maybe make us some sort of presentation where this is going. But I think you guys will find it very interesting as well. And I think that's it for instant finality. Yeah, I think that covers it. I did update Adam earlier this week as well. So there's as always, like another more detailed update if you guys want. It's in the cards.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Wallet SDK, Aaron, you want to give us a quick overview?
Yeah, sure. We had our first meeting this week. They're going to be reoccurring meetings. The time slot may change just because I know we pushed this one quickly and not even everyone even had the chance to respond to their availability. So, but in this initial meeting, we went over the first revision of the architecture document, which we said we would be delivering this week. It's available in the SDK channel. It is going to be a living document. We expect multiple revisions throughout the course of this project, but it is going to be a component that lives in kind of the core GitHub repository that is effectively for developers to get kind of an overview of the architecture of this project. You know, somebody may have an idea for the ecosystem. They're like, where does this idea fit? And this document should help them navigate where it should fit in the architecture. So there is a bit of a question on the architecture document because this was a milestone as to when it is complete. And since it's a living document, I don't know if revision 1 means complete or how we want to handle that. I think that is going to be a topic for next week's call, if not a call like this. But some sort of decision needs to be made as to when we will consider that milestone complete.
So the 3 champions on this are Yves, Guillaume, and Jesse. And so if the 3 of you determine that you feel it's complete enough, right? Doesn't have to be perfect, but as long as the 3 of you are satisfied, we'll mark this as complete. To that end, Aaron, you might want to, if you haven't already, post the link to the architecture document into either the working group channel, or perhaps in this case the coalition channel. It's really up to you because all 3 are in both.
Yeah, I can definitely share it over into the core coalition channel. I don't know if I'm in this working group channel. Am I? I don't know. Either way, we can figure that out offline.
Okay.
I will share it more widely, and I'd also encourage you guys to join in the SDK channel itself. So, and then I guess
a little bit.
Sure.
Go for it. No, go for your train of thought, and then I can something after.
All right. I was going to kind of shift topics. So if it was related to this initial milestone discussion.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Go for it.
So from my point of view, so I did attend last week's call. From my point of view, as Aaron mentioned, it's kind of the architecture itself, or I guess this particular milestone, because it's going to be open, I personally think is in a state enough right now to release payment. I don't know what the others who were on that call or the other 2 champions, what you feel. Because it's going to be ongoing, then like Aaron mentioned, it's never really going to be complete. But based on what I saw, it's complete enough that, and there was no significant pushback. So there's basically, the call was very technical, very deep. We had on our side, Nathan being present as well. And there's a lot of back and forth, but there was no pushback on what was being presented. So sure, it might evolve all that to say, from my point of view, releasing payment and making that milestone complete at this time, I would support.
I would support that as well. On a call, we also had Shaq, who's our lead developer for anything front end, back end, and also our lead sysadmin for all the infrastructure. So basically, he does everything except smart contracts, and he was very impressed with everything. So we're good for that.
Same here.
Sounds good. Same here.
Awesome. And I'm hopeful that this is the only kind of odd milestone out of these milestones. And I guess my last thought on that is I think it's complete enough to proceed forward with the future milestones. And the only reason we want to kind of stress that it is a living document is that as we move through this process, we're probably going to discover things and have to go back and modify it. And that will be a part of those future milestones, is kind of modifying this first one. So it's just kind of a odd milestone.
Absolutely. All right. Anything else?
We are beginning on the next couple milestones. We may want to rearrange a couple of the milestones due to discoveries during the architecture process. We are kind of thinking about shuffling things around. That doesn't mean that any milestones are significantly changing. It just might be beneficial for us to start on one of the further milestones before we get into what we had designated in this current timeline. So we will provide some updates on that relatively soon.
Okay, perfect. All right, close that down. And I will make sure Adam is aware that that milestone's completed. And so he will work through the rest of that process. All right. The one thing on the agenda that I would like to try to get is scheduling the 4 chain heads. It's very difficult to do. Since you're all here, this is a separate meeting on discussing the process when a new chain wants to join the coalition. And Guillaume, you wanted in. Eve, you wanted in. Sean, who was on last week, volunteered to be in. I guess Jesse, Lucas, do you guys want to be part of this? Do you want to send a rep in your place? First,
Douglas, go ahead, Lucas.
You can include me, please.
Okay.
And Douglas volunteered from our side, because he's already involved in some of the governance working group stuff that aligns.
I was going to say, today we met the 4 chain heads, actually for the first time, just 4 chain heads. And we met at a, right before this call, so 1 to 2. That time slot, if we wanted to do that again, works on my end. I don't know if that was, it worked on everybody else's end, or if that was just exceptional today.
That works for me as well.
Having said that, it looks like I'm going to be in South Korea next week on that day. And so I would have to miss if we're trying to do it next week. But I could send somebody else. Well, yeah, well, that's if they let me in. But I could send somebody else in my stead if that discussion was occurring next week.
It might make sense to try to get another time slot on a different day, just like a kind of an optional one that is not necessarily going to take place every week. But if there's ad hoc items that we need to discuss, that would give us maybe a bit more responsiveness. Because having the 2 of them like the same day, like just back to back, and it's a bit slow for addressing.
If we did a doodle again. I most likely would be okay Monday, Tuesday, well, at some point, Monday, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. Monday would be the best in terms of availability. Monday or Wednesday morning, I guess.
At the same time, 1 p.m. Eastern?
No, And because
Let's
1
do
p.m.
a
Eastern
doodle for that
Monday
meeting.
is the SDK call. And 1 p.m. Wednesday would not be no good. But no, if we could do a doodle, that'd be great. Otherwise, I can also send somebody my seat if we wanted to do this earlier, which I agree we should be talking about this earlier rather than later.
Let's send out doodle. We'll figure it out.
I'll do that. All right. And I will send a doodle out.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Yep, no problem.
And you can do the same thing you did last time. You have access to my schedule, and then that way it gives you a base for what to include in the doodle.
Right. I'm like, I already know Eve's going to say no to everything else. So start there.
Just exceptionally next week, it's looking like I have to do a quick in and out back of South Korea again.
All right. Sounds good. So I will take care of that. Move this in progress. All right. So that's it for the agenda item. We've got 12 minutes left. Are there any other topics people would like to cover today?
I have this emerging Ledger situation that I need to somehow connect Ledger with the coalition to somehow manage this app. Otherwise, it's in danger of being delisted.
Can you expand on that a little bit? I read the messages you posted earlier, but who's currently managing? I guess that's the idea, is nobody's maintaining this. Who had originally created that? Was that Cypherglass?
Cypherglass put up a bounty, and a third-party developer who has since stopped working on it was the one who built it. We had that critical issue in the past earlier this year where you couldn't perform any update auth actions, and so if your account was on a ledger, it was stuck there forever. And the Ledger team, after enough prodding, that's a kind of not the right word, but after I raised the issue enough times, eventually dedicated their own resources to fixing this issue. And I don't think they want to repeat that. So they want to make sure that we as a community are maintaining this application and have some sort of formal contact with the Ledger team. So that way this is an app moving forward. I think their concern is they are also getting support requests about it due to bugs and issues within it. And nobody's resolving these issues. So their stance, I believe at this point, is that they would rather delist or move the app into experimental to make it so that users don't find it. So that way their support volume decreases. So it's kind of a reboot of the relationship with Ledger, I feel, at this point in time. And they would not release the issues to me as just kind of a wallet developer in the space. There may need to be agreements that are signed, so that way, like this sort of confidential user information that they have, you know, their users reporting vulnerabilities and issues, isn't getting into the wrong hands. So they're going to get back to me tomorrow on that, but they also wanted some sort of commitment that someone is going to be picking up the development of this application and making sure that it is maintained, and that Ledger as a team can have contact with this organization to relay these sorts of issues too.
Is just an ignorant question, is EOS the only of the coins currently supported by Ledger Live, or is TELOS Wax UX also currently supported?
None of them are supported in Ledger Live, with Ledger Live being their wallet interface. But all of the chains do work with a Ledger device through Anchor and through the web interfaces like Blocks.
Gotcha. So this would be an Antelope thing, but I guess by default, the ENF, if it deemed that it doesn't want to lose that, the ENF would just pick this up.
Potentially. I mean, that's up to you. This could also be an opportunity to rebrand the app from being an EOS app to an Antelope app that runs on the Ledger device. That could be good, and that also could solve the kind of the branding sore point that, you know, you have to use the EOS app to sign like a TELOS transaction.
Do you know if, or actually anybody else on the call, do you guys potentially have engineering resources that we could put in touch, and then we label them as official Antelope engineers or whatever it is, and then that way, as a unit, we're kind of moving forward on this. Because based on what I'm hearing, they need people. It's not money.
Money may also be the thing. I'll just add this.
Okay.
I don't know if there is resources.
Okay.
They have a list of recommended vendors that they work with that they could put us in contact with to manage the app. FIO, for example, right now is actually working with one of the Ledger's external partners to build a FIO app that goes on the Ledger. So I'm in that discussion and have been watching that app been built over the past like 6 months or so. And that is a potential point of contact that could manage a new Antelope app.
What's the technology? What's the language and skills needed to?
It's C, and it is interfacing with the Ledger's drivers and doing things like serialization and managing transports and writing, quote unquote, to the device through the like serial connection or whatever it is. So it is.
Can we start maybe with the reboot of the relationship, because it sounds like there needs to be some sort of a legal agreement between ENF and Ledger, so we can at least get a list of items, and then once we have that in place, then we can figure out who can help with the development. I mean, we can also on WAC's side see if we can help.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I can put whoever in contact that may seem more official than me. I came to them as a wallet developer, so I think when they view me, they see me as just kind of a third party in this ecosystem. So they're looking for, I don't know, some better point of contact, I guess.
Can you reach out, Aaron, to Eric Passmore about this?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we can, so Eric is not here, so I can't ask him, but maybe Eric can represent the ENF for this, and then just start that discussion. Just he has experience with, and I think that would be a good contact to put. Ultimately, if anything needs to be signed, it's going to need to be me anyways.
Sure.
But that way we don't let it linger.
Yeah, I can send Eric a message and see if he's willing to take that on, or just inform him of the situation.
Thank you. If not, maybe Nathan could also do it. I'm just thinking might be ultimately land in Eric's shop.
Yeah, that sounds good. And the reason I wanted to raise it today was I wasn't sure if you guys wanted to handle this as an RFP or just as a kind of a side item. It is probably going to be a smaller item. I don't know though. But as the decisions were being made, I figured it was probably good to be talking about it, or at least raise awareness.
Yeah, thank you. At least we can start to collect information in terms of what it is they need, if there's any commitment, if there's any financial cost, and then in terms of resources as well, what we need. If we can start collecting information, that'd be good.
Cool.
All right, good.
And I guess just to add to that conversation that I had with them, we did briefly talk about future integrations and opening up partnerships and being able to do more with Ledger. But in this initial call, we primarily talked about just getting the current state of affairs in order. So as I said, this is probably a good way to establish that relationship, so that way we have better hardware support moving forward. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
All right, we got 4 more minutes. Anything else? All right. Well, now 3 minutes. I'll let everybody have that back.
Thank you for the 3 minutes. And thank you for keeping us on time. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Goodbye, all.